Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 431 of Newsflash. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, including the latest about the election and the Joe Biden gives his Labor Day remarks. Also, we'll talk about this Atlantic truth-respecting Trump story. Edward Snowden got vindicated. Julian Assange fights extradition. The Red Mirage, what that could mean for the 2020 election, and a Labor Day message from the friends at Newsflash. So, thank you so much for joining us here today. Really do appreciate it. We did have some false starts technically with the election, not the election, but with our show tonight. So, I do apologize for that. Laboring today has proved to be a bit difficult, but here for episode 431. We are here for you with a great show. So we get right into it today, starting at the top with a very, very interesting story here. Talking about Biden really kind of speaking at the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO headquarters in Harrisburg. He was trying to emphasize his union credentials on today, Labor Day, kind of probably one of my favorite holidays, one of the holidays that actually takes a moment to kind of honor workers and give them also the day off. In some cases, with much deserved day off for all the work they do, especially the essential workers. Like, it is probably one of my favorite holidays, I have to say. He told union members he would be the strongest labor president you've ever had, and gave a blistering condemnation of President Trump, calling him downright un-American for reportedly describing fallen service members as losers and suckers in the course of the very well-shared and well-read and well-discussed piece by Jeffrey Goldberg. It came out the day we did our last show, but we did not get to cover it on said show, but we will cover it in detail coming up. But I think it really kind of shows you this. It was a very, very kind of telling thing here, and really, I think these are two instances where rhetoric is such a big difference from reality. Is you hear Trump, like he's been out there. He took to very, very funnily enough, he took the Pentagon of all the Pentagon he took to task about always wanting to start the next war and being tied in with the defense contractors. And this is, again, a guy who just appointed the former CEO of Lockheed Martin into a very high-level governmental position, is bombing tons and tons of different countries, has only stepped up the size of the military budget, which Trump is just insane. He'll be like, oh, yeah, the defense contractor, the top Pentagon people are so corrupt, they would want the next war. And then, look what I did for the military budget, folks. Look what I did. It made it so big. We increased it with the budget more than you've ever seen. Like, it is such mind-boggling cognitive. Like, what about maybe you ever consider how you're just feeding that corrupt beast that you supposedly say is a corrupt beast, but you're really actually controlled by? I mean, he's absolutely right in what he's saying, but what he's doing is just the complete and total opposite. And I think a lot of it is with Joe Biden, what we see here too. Like his support for NAFTA, his support for just unending trade that destroyed the middle class. Very harsh on labor throughout his career, standing right alongside with the Republicans and the Democrats, really throughout the entire situation. Like he has been almost ever president. I mean, I believe he appointed a former Lockheed Martin CEO, but I don't know. I'm gonna find him a little more. He literally appointed a former defense contracting CEO to like a high level national security position. Like it's a well known revolving door. That's what they're just well known revolving doors. It is really incredible. So yeah. He says Biden keeps talking about how great the economy is, how great the stock market is. You know the reason he didn't have the guts to take COVID on and threw up the white flag? He was worried if he started talking about saving people's lives, the stock market may fall. And are we really going to say here that like Joe Biden would have led an aggressive working people first response with the people like that he's been floating this, like with Mike Bloomberg in prominent economic policy positions, Jamie Dimon, like all the same people that like screwed up the Obama administration's economic responses throughout are going to be probably back in the Biden administration, maybe even worse all those lobbyists, all those same people, all of the same parts of the swamp are still going to be there. And you expect me to believe it's going to be any different? Like, that makes no sense. Anybody it's just absolute insanity. Not backed up really by any facts, any real acknowledgement of Joe Biden's record, any real understanding of what truly makes the Democratic Party tick, what the Democratic Party kind of depends on to survive. And it is not in any way really union support. It's very, very sad to see, but unions have really become just cast out of a lot of conversations at this point. So appearing with Richard L. Trumka, the president of the AFL-CIO, very, very somewhat controversial figure, I'd say, in kind of more activist labor circles. Among other things, he pledged to increase essential workers' wages. How about guaranteed $15 an hour minimum wage? How about that? Like, that'd be a real worker-friendly policy. But again, it's just a lot of kind of posturing, just kind of remind people that maybe, oh yeah, the Democrats are still technically in name only the party of the working class. And that's what we're going to come back and do. Like, we just got to pay our dues every Labor Day, talk to a union, because the Republicans can't really do that. I mean, yeah, so he pledged to, if elected, increase essential workers' wages, and again, backing away from that $15 an hour minimum wage that everyone's been talking about, pass the PRO Act to give more workers more organizational and bargaining rights, and hold the executives personally liable if they interfere with unionization efforts. That be love to come back on that checklist and see how much of that's done. Really love to see that in 4 years, which should pass away if Biden was actually is elected, which again I think is more and more of an open question. How much of that stuff he actually does. I don't think it's going to be that much. Let's see. And again, he of course comes back to Trump with the military. Again, just can't go through a speech where he's supposed to be talking about labor again without talking about the military, which is a very, very common theme throughout Twitter. It's being like, thank you so much to our troops. Like, no, this is the one day that is not supposed to be about the troops. Literally every holiday is about the troops, other than like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And other holidays are also technically not about the troops. But like literally people are like Happy Labor Day. Here are some pictures of the graves. No, this is about labor. This is not about troops. One day of the year is not going to be about is not going to be about the troops. If that offends you, I'm sorry. It's just the way it's going to work. I mean, no one's saying that we denigrate the troops. People are just saying that today we are talking about workers' rights, and troops are not members of the working class. They are troops. And those are different categories in my mind. Just kind of an annoying thing that I saw, not just with Joe Biden, but just people in general talking about like troops. And of course, this is a big part of Biden's life. I'll tell you something. My beau wasn't a sucker or a loser, describing his son's service in Kosovo and Iraq. He didn't serve with losers and suckers. He served with heroes. He served with American patriots. And none of the veterans you know are losers and suckers. No president has ever talked about service, women, and men in that way. And again, this is, I think, really where you find the kind of biases where conservatives talk about biases in mainstream media. This seems like if the roles were reversed here, I mean, I see on CNN just like rambling Trump. I mean, I'm sure Biden was almost equally as incoherent. Like, he can yell and he can get mad. They both can, but it doesn't sound like they're. It's very, very interesting to see, like, to notice them both sound uniquely just babbling and grandpa-like and dementia-esque, and the media being like, a strong, impassioned speech by Joe Biden and a rambling Trump protest. Like, why can't we just all agree? Everybody sees what's going on here. Neither of these people is really quite right. Like, I think that's completely fair. But let's see. Does that surprise you coming from a man who only thinks about what helps him? He asks, quote, what's in it for them? Does that surprise you coming from a man who only thinks about what's in it for him? Well, he'll never understand. He'll never understand you. He'll never understand us. He'll never understand our cops, our firefighters, because he's not made of the same stuff that the people who serve this nation are made of. That is for sure. And yeah, we do have to get in that piece now, I think, 'cause it's going to be very, very important. This again from Jeffrey Goldberg, who again is I think I think it's fair to say kind of a more corporatist or kind of more centrist kind of guy, very, very much a moderate, very much someone who is known for very neoconic tendencies in the past, neoconservative tendencies. Very much a big fan of the Iraq War, played a big role in that, and kind of making the liberal case for it. One of the big, more supposedly frontward-facing liberal intellectual magazines that was like, okay, this is why it's okay to go into the Iraq War, which of course was a big, that area, big supporter of the war on terror. Goldberg was a big reason why Kelly lost his kid and a bunch of other people lost their children in a war that, like, clearly nothing was accomplished. I highly recommend you check out it was really a similar situation about how we knew this war, especially the one in Afghanistan we're about to hear a little bit about from the John Kelly situation, like that war was going nowhere. We knew about it. We lied to the public and kept going. Like, that is what happened. And really, the attitude of to me, when a procedure is taken out like that by the highest levels of our military and the highest levels of our government and the national security state, like, what does that mean that they are, like, how does that mean that they view American troops? How does that mean that they view American lives? Like, is it anything other than viewing them as suckers? Is that any, like, people who are just there to fight wars and put themselves in danger when there's not a real necessity, when we know our aims are not being accomplished, and we know that, like, this is just a clearly hopeless exercise, but yet we still keep sending people back there for no discernible purpose, no interest to our country. Like, it is just not right. So here, that's more kind of particular Afghanistan war commentary there, more than it is the commentary about the true nature of this story. So I do want to get into it. When President Donald Trump canceled a visit to the Asni-Marne American Cemetery near Paris in 2018, he blamed the rain for his last-minute decision, saying the helicopter couldn't fly and the Secret Service wouldn't drive him there. Neither claim was true. Trump rejected the visit because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain, and because he did not believe it was important to honor American war dead, according to 4 people with first-hand knowledge of that discussion that day. In a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, "Why should you go to the cemetery? It's filled with losers." In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to the more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives in Belleau Wood as suckers for getting killed. Belleau Wood is a consequential battle in American history, and the ground on which it was fought is venerated by the Marine Corps. America and its allies stopped the German advance toward Paris there in the spring of 1918, but Trump, on that same trip, asked aides who were the good guys in this war. He also said that he didn't understand why the United States would intervene on the side of the Allies. And again, I mean, if you look at the situations here, the case for non-interventionism, I guess you could say, for the case for staying out of World War I think was a lot stronger than obviously the case for staying out of World War II, because Germany was not doing nearly the type of things that Germany was doing in the Second World War. There were obviously some provocations, but nowhere near the scale of an entire airbase being blown up. And it's like, was it kind of a smart institution, or was it kind of a smart move for the United States to get in that war? What was Woodrow Wilson? What were the aims of Woodrow Wilson in that situation? I mean, it's not a crazy, like, the sides are clearly not as clear cut. And again, there also is this kind of very interesting kind of American exceptionalism idea that we see with Jeffrey Goldberg. I think about the idea that every war that America ever gets into is good. All Americans' fights are righteous, and, like, we by definition are in the right because we are taking an action, and that's how America should view itself at all times. But Trump's understanding of concepts such as patriotism, service, and sacrifice have interested me since he expressed contempt for the war record of late Senator John McCain, who spent more than 5 years as a prisoner of the North Vietnamese. He's not a war hero, Trump said in 2015 while running for the Republican nomination for president, saying, quote, "I like people who weren't captured." I mean, looking at what John McCain has done, look at the sum total of, like, his life's record has been. I mean, I would say he's a net negative impact. And I mean, that comment, I'm sorry, does it make me an awful person? It didn't tear me up that much.